And we're live. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the podcast.
What's up?
Hey, man.
It is another week
Nice
in
hat.
March here.
Wow, some pretty hats you're wearing there.
Welcome in, whoever's listening, on your way to work, on your way home from work, cleaning the house, walking the dog.
Didn't your wife say to get more excited at the beginning of these?
No, she was talking about the seasonal live streams
Gotcha.
on our YouTube channel. You told me actually to make my podcast intro less excited. So I've been trying to slowly simmer down the intros, because if you go listen to like Rogan, he's just like, Chuck, what's going on? Like that's how he starts it, and everyone else is like trying to think of the perfect like hook to the beginning of a podcast, and people just see through that and they're like, dude, just talk.
Have you heard mine lately, what we're doing at the intro? We're literally just starting it whenever the cameras roll, and we're already talking.
I saw you with Cannon Smith, actually. I saw that intro. That was good.
Yeah, that was just talking.
Yeah.
Randomly, the cameras just turn on, and we're in the middle of a like introductionary. Is that a word? Introductionary talk.
Yeah. So you sent us a Art of Manliness podcast recently. You guys were just talking about it off camera.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't listened to it yet. What was it? What stood out to you? Art of Manliness is a podcast platform, and then the episode was on something, right?
Mm-hmm. What's the title of it? Do you see the title?
Yeah, let me see. It says there isn't a loneliness epidemic.
Yeah.
And that may be an even bigger problem.
Yeah. So the guy makes an argument that he's a doctor, but he makes an argument because we always think about, the loneliness epidemic going around. Everyone's lonely. And so, especially as Christians, we're trying to think through this, if we're going to try to tackle loneliness. But this guy makes an argument, and I think it's a really good one. No, the people actually aren't lonely. That's actually the problem. Their dopamine, like Tyler was saying earlier, their social dopamine is already hit, maxed, because of all the interaction that we get during the day through, either text or social media or Zoom calls with work, the new trend of working since COVID, working from remotely. And so you go through a full day, say you work remotely, you go through a full day of Zoom call, texting your wife all day. You go, social media, you're looking for, your favorite sports team or whatever you do on social media, and another Zoom call. And then you do all this stuff, FaceTime with your wife, you do all this stuff. And then it's like, hey, the Joneses are asking if we want to go for dinner tonight. And you're just like, oh, I'm exhausted. I don't think I can make it. And you literally haven't even left the house. So it's not that we're lonely and needing companionship. We're getting it in the wrong way. And so we're not exercising. He talks about exercising, social, something about being social and, personal, being social. And it's like a muscle you have to exercise. If you don't exercise the muscle of being social with others, then it gets weaker and weaker and weaker. And the more likely you are to not ever leave the house again, because you're getting everything you need through the phone.
Do you think that you're like, yeah, I guess so. Like, I guess people would say like that they're really lonely. People could say that they're lonely when they're just sitting there scrolling social media. But his argument is you're actually not really lonely. It may be that you're lonely in a way that, not necessarily that you're not getting any human interaction, but that you're not getting it in person.
Yeah, I don't, this is, once again, this is just this one guy's argument. I just think it's a decent argument that he's putting forth here, but it's not, I'm not necessarily talking about scrolling social media. That's part of it, but more so the texting, the group chats,
And the remote work.
remote work. You kind of, you haven't even left your room. He said that builders these days are building apartments and houses based on Netflix and chill. They used to build houses with like, you come in and there's a stairway or there's a grand entry.
The sunken living room like mom has. Did you think of that?
Yeah. Yeah. So now it's all about what's the coziest, most private Netflix
Where to
and
put the
chill,
flat screen
where to
TV.
put the flat screen. That's how you build a house now,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to like this is where we're going to gather. Like this is to be the big main room where we all gather and of couches facing each other. Now it's like, where could we get like the chair in the corner with a really cool cozy spot with a TV? And people are getting worn out and they don't want to socialize, and literally they haven't seen a human all day.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting pod. You should listen to it. Double speed, of course.
Yeah, they used to build houses with fireplaces as being like the central area, and I guess technically that is something that you gather around.
Yeah.
You're technically kind of like watching the fire. That was like nature's. Like Amy and I on our TV put on YouTube a lot, and I'll just do like a fireplace ambiance. One, because it's not super stimulating for David, so it's not like messing with his little eyes. It's just like a fire, which is kind of like natural, even though it's virtual. And I was like, isn't it funny that like they don't build fireplaces in houses anymore? And so like even with our TV, that is now the central part of the house, I'd try to do a fire because there's something like calming about it.
Yeah. Yeah, you should listen. But Tyler actually had some interesting takes on that same podcast. It was the phone.
Yeah, the root of the whole problem is the phone. It's the most abused and addictive drug ever invented. Do you disagree with that?
I don't think I can. No.
And it's, like I was saying, you go back and forth. Like, let me get a flip phone, or you can go through moments, at least in my experience, of like 3 months of like not checking my phone, leaving it out of my room when I go to sleep. And then you always slowly drift back into that pattern. That little dopamine hit of who texted me, the little beep. Like, dude, I turned notifications off. At least that helped me, like, probably 8 years ago. Like,
so the guy's argument...
It was creating so much stress in my life.
The guy's argument, I think, in the podcast was, in order to combat that, yes, it's good to have some kind of pattern of self-control with a phone, but I think his main argument by the end was, you need to set up a dinner date, and you need to do this regularly with your family or with your neighbors or with your friends. You need to say, hey, Wednesday night we're doing we're gathering. He said that there's like a new trend in his city where there's a cafe where people play board games. So you go to the cafe and play old-fashioned board games, and it's like a coffee shop, but they have board games everywhere. So you pick a board game and there's a table. So his argument is, hey, you need to schedule time and stick to it to have a dinner, like
Again,
a good old-fashioned barbecue.
You can't, because the problem is the phone. That's my whole takeaway, and the point that he was trying to make was, you get those dopamine hits or whatever he was saying through texting and through your social media platforms, that by the time somebody hits you up, you're exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can't
That's
go.
what he's saying. Fight through that, and that's a muscle.
Or quit the phone thing. That's where I keep going back to the root.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, you can have self-discipline and resilience and grit to fight through that, to do it, but it's like we're all just scrolling phones all day.
I wish Parker had heard it, because you could help, but I think what he's saying is, you can't get rid of the phone, otherwise you're a monk. You can't do that. Like you said earlier on the phone with me, as we were talking on the phone, you're saying, we as a social media driven company, as a brand, we have to at least be aware. We can't just say, I'm going to go to flip phone. I personally can't. There's no way. I can't go to light phone.
Apparently Parker can. Parker's doing it.
Well, we'll let you talk about, I want to hear what you're doing, but you can, in this world, you can only do it for so long before you're going to have to, in order to keep up with whatever your job is. But the guy, I think his argument is, set a dinner date, and you still do the phone during the day, but set the dinner date, and the more you do that, the more you exercise that muscle, the less you'll need that dopamine hit of the phone. So that's the chicken and the egg. What comes first, quitting the phone or scheduling the dinner date and doing it? I think his argument is, push into the dinner date that exercise is a muscle that gets stronger and stronger.
Mm-hmm.
He used to say, and back in the old days, everything was based around the neighborhood barbecue or the neighborhood cookout or the tailgate or the something food and he's like, now you get a message, hey, you want to come to the barbecue? And it's like, I would rather watch the game
and then
by myself on my couch.
Then they go to the barbecue and get on their phones.
Yeah. Anyway, what are you doing now, Parker? You're literally sitting there with an iPhone. What are you talking about, Tyler?
Parker's going through notes.
I know, but
no, he doesn't have a flip phone. He deleted all his social media. Should have been clear.
I still have YouTube, but I remember hearing a podcast with Tucker Carlson and Joe Rogan, and Joe asked Tucker if he has social media, and Tucker laughed and said, absolutely not. I don't have that. I am on it so much that I'd rather just stay completely separate so his team posts for him. And it's like, if Tucker Carlson doesn't have Twitter, then I don't need Twitter. That was kind of my first like aha moment. So the answer is, if you have a social media company, you just need to hire a 22-year-old to post it for you.
There's another side thing, because I've been off Twitter for 2 weeks now. I deleted it off my phone. I'm using Buffer. It posts for me. And I was like, okay, I've known that for a while, but I finally lean into that. So I don't actually go on X. Buffer posts to Threads or X for me. I'm still working on Instagram. I don't ever get on TikTok. I don't need to, but I need to figure out. X was my addiction. Instagram has never really been a thing for me. But once I figure out how to like navigate Instagram with Buffer, which is a third-party app that posts on your socials for you, so you don't have to see. That could be huge. But man, I was telling Tyler this morning, we were having this conversation this morning, and I was like, yeah, I have been off X for 2 weeks. And I have it on my iPad, not my phone. So if I need to check something, I go to my iPad, which I don't have in my pocket all the time. The problem is it's in your pocket all the time. So if it's at home on my iPad, I need to see X because of something like make sure a post went through. I can check it. So I did that yesterday. As soon as I went to check to see if my post went through on my iPad, I pull it up, X, it says a post from Texas A&M baseball. Stephen F. Austin 4, Texas A&M 1. Final. And I was like, no! Turned it over like instantly, got in a bad mood.
Dude, I relate to that so hard right now because I initially got rid of Instagram because I could just find myself getting discontent seeing I see other apparel companies, and it like makes me I just like covet or I envy, and I get so discontent. And you could say, well, you just need to work on that and pray about it. It's like, yeah, but for me, it was like Jesus saying, cut off your hand if it's causing you to sin and gouge out your eye, which Jesus means you need to take extreme measures to mortify or destroy your sin and not let it creep up. I was just reading C.H. Spurgeon last night, and he talks about when you first become a believer, your conscience is super sensitive, and then it slowly starts to numb over time. And he says even a drop of water begins to shape a rock if you give it enough time and enough drops.
Yeah, it's good.
And he talks about that, just numbing our consciences. And so for me, man, yeah, I was just like, I could just feel my heart getting upset. And so I just decided to get rid of Instagram. I get on it on my desktop at work whenever I need to review it.
Same idea, yeah.
But it's at work and it's on the computer. So
I think that's a healthy thing. It's on your computer. Now, if you realize you're going to sit at your desk and get your Instagram on your computer for reasons of just consumption and scrolling, that would be bad. But it's not, Instagram is not made for the desktop. It's made to put your thumb and scroll up and scroll up and scroll up. So it's on the desktop. It just doesn't function like the slot machine that they want it to.
Yeah. Yeah, so then all my time went to the Facebook app on my phone, and then so I was like, okay, well, I should get rid of this too. And then it all went to Twitter, and then I became obsessed with Texas A&M sports because that's just kind of naturally what Twitter is functioning as.
Our algorithms.
Like politics and sports. And then, it would like ruin my evening when I'd see A&M basketball lost, and then A&M baseball lost, and then the season. And I remember seeing a guy, an A&M reporter, baseball reporter, tweet, and he was like, he said, I hadn't been on Twitter in weeks, and I was on it this day for whatever reason. And the first thing I see after A&M baseball had lost like 4 straight after being preseason #1, and he says, sometimes I honestly wonder if people who don't watch sports have better lives than those who do. My entire weekend was just ruined because a 17-year-old can't hit a ball with his wooden stick. And I was like, dude, that was my life. And I'm by no means saying that you should not watch sports. I'm not saying that your life is better if you don't watch sports. I think sports are incredible. But I've been in that situation where my weekend's been ruined because a 17-year-old can't do something with a little ball. And
That sounds so funny.
I was just tired of it, dude. And so I'm ready to take a break from sports, and I'm off Twitter, and it's been really awesome. And I'm really interested to see what's going to happen to me during football season because A&M football is like my favorite. But this last season was really annoying.
Brother, you know what will never let you down is a big old bass on the end of that line.
Yeah, well,
Because even if the line breaks, you're not heartbroken. You're just ready for another.
yeah. Are we going to go fishing at that lake this spring?
I want to.
I just got a text from our buddy at the church who has a nice aluminum boat, or it's fiberglass boat. And he said he's been struggling a little bit with the wind lately, but he said it's time to get out.
And that's the lake. What lake is it?
I'm not going to say it on this podcast.
It's like a couple hours away, though, right? Or
No,
should I
it's
not
like
even say that.
It's
50 minutes.
Yeah, it's 50 to an hour.
People are just going to look up lakes 50 minutes from Georgetown, Texas.
Would you stop that? Let's just change the subject.
I think I'd like to maybe go with you guys.
It's gorgeous.
Wow.
This time.
I believe it.
It looks
Let's
like
see
Bass
right
Pro
now.
Shops.
Yeah, it does look like Bass Pro Shops.
Y'all want to go
It's
this month?
gorgeous.
Are you going to catch bass?
Yeah. Yeah. They do have, well, I'm not going to say anything more about that lake, but yeah, bass.
The only rule is you have to keep your phone in the glove compartment.
Pull it out for a quick Insta story, when you catch that fish.
Yeah, man. It's been really nice. I just remember my whole world was like living. You're just like living in a world where you're just like hot. You're posting everything that you're doing. I don't know.
Yeah, I totally get it.
But it's also like I also understand why you do it because that's part of your livelihood.
Yeah, X was the one, like I said, that was the one that really got me. Instagram is definitely Amber's. Like, she has admitted, this is my vice. I need to get off this. And I'm like, Instagram doesn't really do that for me. I don't ever catch myself scrolling Instagram. And I don't mind posting pictures of Maverick on my stories. So he's like a never-ending supply of Instagram stories.
Yeah. I was watching, kind of going back to the idea of board games just really quick because I do think this is really interesting. I was watching, there's a show on PBS, on the PBS app called All Creatures Great and Small, right? That's what it's called. And it's about, is it Scotland? Do you know where it is?
It's England.
It's England in the late 1930s, early 1940s. And it's this family, and it's really good. It's really wholesome. But it's actually good. Usually if it's wholesome, it means it's not going to be any good. But it is good. And in the evenings, they don't have TVs in the late 1930s, early 1940s. And in the evenings, they're like always playing some variation of Scrabble or like another game, like by the fire. And I remember watching that with Amy, and she was like, we grew up doing that. They were a big game family. Mom will probably correct me if I say this, but we didn't play like regularly games. And so I was thinking, Amy loves playing games. And so I was thinking, like, I wonder if we could incorporate. I do think there's something to what you said about people gathering to play board games. And like Tyler said, it's going to be really hard because their dopamine is so jacked up. But I do think that it would be interesting to try to incorporate that in our own family. There's a couple at our church that don't even own a TV in their den, and they just like hang out in the evenings. I don't think I could do that immediately.
We don't have a TV either, we have in that little side room, and then people end up going in a little bitty side room. It's
Yeah.
so funny. I remember when we built our house, and I got asked so many times to double check that I did not want to put a cable outlet in the back of my fireplace.
I was actually thinking about that when I was listening to the podcast, because you might as well have done it just in case you ever sell. But I was like, whatever.
I knew that it was going to protect me from, and these days you could probably get strong enough Wi-Fi that you don't need cable anyway. But I just thought, man, if it's there, I'm going to put a TV. And I've actually considered it, like, the Super Bowl's here, I should put a TV. No, nope. Just keep our living room TV free.
Yeah.
You know what Amber and I got into again was that show Alone. Speaking of loneliness epidemic, did you
It's
ever
like
get
a
into
survival
that?
show.
Did you
No,
ever
I never got into it.
Did you ever get into that?
I was the one that
did,
told
right?
you about
Yeah,
it.
yeah. If you haven't seen it, you and Amy, like, I think you two would like it. If you're looking for a show, there's so many seasons that you can kind of get lost in them. There's like 9 seasons or maybe, and so we're watching, I think, season 8, the second to newest. But they pick, what do you say, like 10 people, about 10 people at the beginning, and they drop them off in a very remote location. The season I'm watching right now, they're in British Columbia, upper Saskatchewan, I think, one of those areas up in northern Canada, on this land where it's like many lakes and marshy woods with bears and wolves and trout, and so they put them in different spots. So they pre-plan this, the show producers. It's pretty genius, really. But they'll pre-plan it, and they'll put them, like, one person here on this little peninsula, and then this person over here, and you could see them on the map, but they'll never find each other. So they're alone, and there's only one object of the game. Last one to tap out wins. That's the object. That's how you win.
Wow.
And you win $500,000 by just staying the longest. And sometimes it goes like 100 days.
Wow.
Sometimes, like, there'll be a guy that taps out within a few days, always. But it'll go for months.
What if they get like multiple people that could just sustain themselves inevitably, like,
So
indefinitely?
when it gets to the end like that, they're doing multiple wellness checks. They're sending boats with like a doctor. They don't have any kind of social interaction. They just get there and they check your vitals. And usually when it's 2 people and it's over 100 days and they're like super skinny, and one of the doctors will say, I can no longer
Gotcha.
recommend that you stay here without nourishment. You're going to die.
Wow.
So, because like a strong-willed person would be like, I don't care, I'm not tapping out. But what gets them so many times is some kind of food poisoning. Like the episode I'm watching right now, the show last night that Amber and I were watching, the guy it's like 8 days in, and the guy just started throwing up. He's like, I feel my stomach hurts, and then he like reaches out of his shelter and starts throwing up, and it ended. And he's done, because if you've been 8 days with minimal calories, you have low energy already. As soon as you eat something or drink something wrong, and your stomach gets upset, you lose electrolytes and you lose all energy, and you're going to die probably if you don't get electrolytes, and so they'll end up tapping out probably. But it's a crazy show, right? Don't you agree?
Yeah.
How long do you think you would last?
Man, honestly, not long, because I mean, the people they're picking, they're not picking people like us. They're not picking anyone that's listening to this show. They're picking people that literally grew up from a baby off the grid, like catching their own fish with sticks and eating raw salmon eggs. And these are people, like, I don't even know, like, Steve Rinella would make it very long. I mean, these are a different breed. You're making shelters and making fires, and you get 10 items you could bring. You get 10 items you could bring, but within a list of items they approve. Like, you can't bring a fishing rod, or that wouldn't be an approved item, but you could bring like a cord You could bring a tarp. Then make you bring a toothbrush. You could bring a bow and a quiver and like 8 arrows, I think, max.
That sounds terrible.
So they watch the seasons before, and they strategize based on the previous seasons. So they'll be like, okay, this guy Frank built a boat in season 3, and he was able to get out there and make a ghillie net and put the net out. So I'm gonna try to make a boat. Or this so and so made a shelter that the blizzard came in, because like that's what they always time it where like by the end the blizzard's coming. So by like day 100,
like winter's coming.
Winter's coming. So it gets harder. Every day goes by, it gets harder because winter's coming.
So is each new season like 10 new contestants?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. It's like actually Survivor. That's sweet.
Yeah, there's no gimmicks to it.
Yeah.
It's just literally you have a button to tap out and they'll come get you on a boat or a helicopter. So you just sit there and you're alone in your little shelter just going, I miss my wife, but I could really use that $500,000, but I'm kind of going crazy. Boop! You push a button. It's so
Wow.
weird. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, we used to watch Survivor, man, growing up, and that was the one that was like more legit than like Man vs. Wild with Bear Grylls, because you're always like, oh, he just has his camera crew with him. But what's his name, Lee Strauss or
Wonder
something?
where that guy is now, Survivor Man.
It would just be him and his cameras, and so it was
Yeah.
interesting. We as humans are like interested to see other humans in dire situations to see what they'd do.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. Yeah, I don't think I'd last very long. Would you?
No way.
I mean, yeah.
We have our spring launch this Friday at 10 a.m. at yeeyeelife.com. And, man, you guys blew us away with your support for the faith stuff. So we got a bunch of new faith shirts in this launch. The one Tyler has on, the one I have on, that you cannot see because this is a podcast. And you're only seeing the fronts of them. Brian is now showing me. If you're watching on YouTube, this is the back of Tyler's. If you're listening on anything else, it's a sweet black shirt. It says, "No weapon forged against you shall prosper." And then this one is...
Which God was telling the Israelites, it's not about God. Parker corrected
Yeah, I got it wrong.
me this morning
After all that?
after our podcast, yeah.
And then we also have this
Live.
other one that's Christ is King. Were you done with that thought, Tyler?
So I was thinking about at the Yee Yee Fest on the May 9th, the Friday night, I'll see what you guys think about, because we're going to do like some kind of prayer dinner for the VIPs. And we're thinking about doing, I guess, a podcast, Granger Smith podcast, but having some wild mics out and have you guys have like Marshall, Ant-Man, Grizzle be there, and just have people ask questions. Or like Chris Lee will be there, like, hey, my questions for Grizz, or my questions for Tyler, my questions for Marshall, and
Ain't nobody gonna ask us questions. They're just gonna ask you everything.
no,
And it might be awkward if Marshall's just up there and nobody asks him anything.
well, inevitably, I'll redirect. So if a question comes to me, like something about church or something, I'll be, well, Marshall could help better with that. So anyway, I'm just bringing that up. I think it would be an opportunity to do a really cool Q&A with the whole team.
Well, you're also playing acoustic, right?
Yeah, I think we advertise that. Yeah, do a few songs and do a few, questions, and have a guitar up there.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting, man. We've got a lot of people who are coming. It's going to be really fun. You guys can go to yeefest.com to get tickets. That'll be May 9th and 10th. We're going to have a truck show on Friday the 9th, and then mud bog competition on the 10th with hopefully some big monster trucks are going to enter this year, right? Because it
Hope
wasn't...
so. Hope we get some mega trucks.
It wasn't... Last year we were double booked with Louisiana Mud Fest, but we're hoping to get some monster trucks here.
I haven't even touched base with Justin. Have you?
We're trying to through email because we have a bunch of questions. I've texted him a few times. Yeah.
Okay. Are we doing? We have entries rolling in right now for that?
No, that's the thing. We don't have the submission form, so Ben's working on getting that back again. Because we asked Justin, how do we do this, and he said that what we did last year worked great, so he suggests we do that again.
Okay.
Yeah, we need his network to get the monster trucks, but that'll be fun.
If you're listening right now and you got a monster truck or a truck you want to get in the mud, go to yeeyeelife.com.
But we don't have the submission form live yet, so stay tuned. If you do want to enter into the mud bog, there's no way to enter into it right now.
What if you want to enter into the truck show? Like I met a guy yesterday that said that.
No idea.
The tickets are on for all kinds of
Okay.
platinum, gold, like normal. Yeah, it's all on yeeyeelife.com.
You guys got anything else?
No.
Thank you guys for listening. Hope you have a great week. We'll have our spring launch this Friday at yeeyeelife.com. And we'll see you next week.
Yee.